Let's just start from day one. What's your kind of favorite memory, regret, anything about your first day at the Daily Show?
I guess I'll go. Well, I didn't start first because Josh, you were there before me. But my first day was actually just kind of a tour of the building, and one of our field directors, Stacy, was taking me around, and I'm very grateful for that because she gave me the inside scoop of just how the place works and how to navigate everything. It was also I feel like we were still in COVID times
Oh, wow.
during that time. So I had like two masks on, and so no, it was I was Stacy was showing me around, but no one knew who I was, and a few people thought Stacy and I are both mixed Asian people, so a few people thought that I was just her brother that she was like taking around, and that actually I loved that.
You are her brother, no?
I am though. I think we did ancestry.com and it's there.
I mean, my memory has always been bad, but one thing I do remember after my first day in the office was calling my mom, and one of the first things I said was, "There are so many dogs in the
Yeah.
office." And there really are like pretty consistently, what would you guys say, like at least six dogs
I was
throughout the
gonna say like 10. There's always at least 10 dogs because some of them
office?
are shy, so they're there. But
Yes, true.
Are
Yeah,
there
some
like,
you only see.
do all the dogs get along? Are there like dog fights happening or
I've never seen a dog fight.
Oh, okay,
oh,
good.
there are
Not
dog
one that we
fights.
aren't orchestrating.
There is
Totally
money being moved around. Yeah. No.
different.
So my first day was as a writer back in 2017. And so I remember getting shown around and everything by the head writer at the time, who now is an EP. And then I got my desk, and I was sharing a desk with was sharing a room with Devin, and people were popping in to say hello, which was very sweet. And it it did become clear after maybe the second person who stopped by to say hi that I was like taking the desk of someone who had left that was very, very funny. So then I was like, oh, okay, that's cool that someone here has been very funny at this desk. I hope to be as funny as this person who I'm not meeting that is very, very funny at this desk. And then someone even showed me a piece that she did, and it was very funny. And I was like, y'all have never lied. This person is very, very funny. And it's a very surreal experience to like take up a desk that was taken up by someone who was very, very good at their job, and
Mm.
then be shown outright, nearly immediately, how good they were at their job, but as a point of like, this is what the great work we're going to do here. Like, it was a very positive thing.
Yeah.
But in my head, as someone starting a job, I was like, "Ooh, they are very good. I hope that they don't want to come back and take this desk back."
And if you could just kind of briefly, I'm sure it was a long journey, but just tell me kind of how you got to the Daily Show, and how that journey kind of happened for each of you.
I got the job kind of came out of nowhere. I was doing a movie that was shooting in Alabama, fall of what year is it? I want to say fall of 2022, 2023. I don't remember things. But Desi Lydic was also in that movie, and so that's how we met. And so we were just hanging out on set in Alabama for 3 weeks, and it was just kind of a lucky window of time. At the end of shooting, she just turned to me and she said, "I know that we're looking to hire new people," and she said, "I like the way you talk, and so can I give them your name?" And I said, "Great pitch." And and then a few weeks later, I sent in a video self-tape audition, and then a couple weeks after that, I just had a meeting with the producers, and they offered me the job. And I will say, I've said this before, but coming from a musical theater background, this was the fastest job offer I've ever received.
I'd already been working with Comedy Central a bit, like through the pandemic. I'd like had a relationship with Comedy Central, making some videos for their Twitter and things like that. And then I got, just a audition request in my inbox, and my team called me and they were like, "You should do this." And uh the I wonder if it was like the same audition as yours, Troy. It was like I read one piece that was written, and then
Mhm.
they asked me to put together a like maybe 60 seconds like fake chat. And so I wrote it at the time. My mom, again, I'm bringing her up twice already and 5 minutes into the interview. She read the other lines, and so at the time Trevor was the host, and so she was reading as Trevor Noah. And my mom always does a funny thing where like when she's reading for a role, she like has to put on some sort of persona. So she was using a like comically low voice, like in a way where I was like, can you just use your regular voice? Like, you don't have to sound like a man. But I wrote a little piece about like I was in DC for, you know, some reason, but all I was really trying to get from Trevor was a couple bucks to get some astronaut ice cream at the Space Museum. So, which I actually stand by because I love astronaut ice cream and I love the DC Space Museum. And then yeah, same as Troy, I like had a meeting with the producers and I called my team after and I was like, I think I got the job. It wasn't completely explicit, but I don't think I got it. So it was very, very exciting.
So cool. And Josh, I know you said you were already a writer on the show, but what about you?
Yeah, so I got the opportunity to do a couple of pieces on camera that we weren't sure yet if they were going to be for digital or for the show, and one of them ended up being used for the show, which was like almost a sort of audition right there. And then I, kept writing and everything, and then I finally was able to do a chat. There was a day where John had started and Dulce was unavailable, so I stepped in to do the chat during rehearsal. So then that also helped. It's just felt like a bunch of things were happening in tandem, and then much like Troy, it was sort of a whirlwind where it was just like out of nowhere happening.
Which part of the prep process do you kind of look forward to the most? Is there, or is there a part that gives you anxiety, makes you nervous, or you're looking forward to? How does that work when you're getting ready for a segment?
I actually love specifically the second rewrite of a piece. The first rewrite, when you're when we're just given like a concept, gives me anxiety because I don't do well with all the options under the sun. So I really love once we've been given some notes and they say it needs to be this long and you can't talk about this and we need to go in this direction. I go, okay, because otherwise I'm gonna go insane. But I mean, also this is my background is theater and acting, and so The Daily Show is a variety comedy show. So this is completely exercising new muscles here. But creatively, this is the most collaborative job I think I've ever had, which is really, a treat.
I actually like the first rewrite.
Okay, Grace.
And I didn't like Troy's answer. No, I'm kidding. Because I think like maybe the opposite, like my background is in like sketch writing. And so I think being in like a smaller group, it's usually like, the correspondents. So one or two of us with a couple of writers. I think that like gets my juices flowing a little bit more because there is like almost the exact opposite, like you said, like all the options under the sun, like gives me like more. I don't know. I feel like it maybe it just comes more naturally for me in that process.
I don't know, Troy. Maybe it's just easier for me.
So maybe it's because I was writing before I was a correspondent and everything, but my favorite part of the process isn't really second rewrite or first rewrite. It's really pitching. It's really like before we have any ideas, before there's anything, whether I'm reading pitches that people have pitched for us as correspondents or I'm pitching myself, just because it's like your chance to take the biggest swing. And so sometimes you pitch a thing, like even when I was writing specifically, I would pitch one thing that I was like, oh, this seems like in the purview of like how we would tackle the thing. And then I'd pitch at least one thing where I was like, I don't know if this will ever happen, but it'd be very funny if we did it. This is the wildest thing. And whenever you get that thing picked, that's like one of the best feelings. And it is rare because the whole reason you're pitching in your head is like they wouldn't dare. And so then if they pick it, then you almost get nervous. Then that's when I start to dread first rewrite and second rewrite because I'm like, what did I do? Oh no, what did I do?
So Josh is excited first, then Grace, and then it takes me a while to
Yeah. Yeah. But you get there eventually. Has there been something you've filmed on air when it's happening live and you just you broke character? I mean, you just couldn't help but start cracking up.
I did recently, it was a chat with Ronnie, and right before rehearsal, Ronnie comes up to me and he goes, you're gonna speak Mandarin. And I went, what? And he was like, yeah, and he goes, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. And he said it like as he was walking away. So I didn't really have a choice. And then I was just thinking, I was like, is there gonna be just like Mandarin on the teleprompter and I have to just guess? But it was like written out phonetically. But knowing, I was like, this is a tonal language. I'm not gonna get it correct at all. And what really broke me was like it was quite a bit. It was a few sentences, and as I was going, I could just see Ronnie just like laughing, dropping his head, and shaking it because clearly I was butchering this so badly, and it was just an amalgamation of humiliation and hilarity. And I'm usually pretty good at keeping it together.
Yeah.
This is a moment that has made me break, but also like I feel like almost all of us, hosts included, have broken during moments like this where we're given a prop, like a food prop that we actually have to take a bite of. So like I've had to like eat a hot dog, like only one bite, but you you like kind of be surprised like how difficult it is to have even a tiny bite of a hot dog knowing you have to speak immediately after. And, you know, or like drink a sip of something. And there's times where like one of us not chokes in a dangerous way, but like fumbles over their words or accidentally spits some, you know, liquid out. And I feel like those are always just goofy moments where it's like, if that happens in rehearsal, like it will probably just happen again when we film it live. So
Yeah, no, I feel like I've handled mine during rehearsal so poorly that they never make it to air. Like they literally will write it in there. I'll do it, and I'll either like cough up too much cookie or whatever the thing is that they just change it like outright. And so I've never been able to professionally push through the way Grace and Troy have. I've always been like, and then they're like, yeah, he's gonna do that. So
yeah,
make it all words.
take the props out.
Yeah.
And has anyone on the team, if it's John or Desi or Ronnie or whoever, giving you a piece of advice that's really stuck with you and helped?
I don't know if advice is the correct word to phrase this, but Desi, when I first started working here, and of course I was nervous because it was a new experience and everything, Desi kept repeating this to me. And I don't know if this was kind of a joke or in pure sincerity, but she kept saying, Troy, you are overqualified to be here. And but she said it with like a wink wink, which by the way, no, I'm not. But in those moments when she did say it, it was enough to just I think it was her way of saying like, this is a job and we're all doing it as best we can and it's gonna be fine.
I've noticed that like Ronnie will be so busy, like almost running through the office to get one place from another. But if you're doing a chat with him and he like makes eye contact with you, he will like fully stop mid speed walk and just be like, hey, it's fun. This is fun. Let's have fun.
Yeah.
And I feel like that moment is so hectic and almost scary that it is like, oh wait, yeah, duh. Like that is the point. This is a comedy show. And that's always a reminder.
Yeah, like I feel like I've had that with Costa a few times where like the first initial few times I was like fairly nervous. And Costa was like reassuring, but almost in that way that Desi was to Troy, where you're like these are the tone is perfect. The tone is how you calm someone. The words, while still jokes, are like exactly what I'm worried about. So the Costa would be like, there's no way you could like ruin the show. Like there's like whatever you're worried about, like you can't like ruin everything. Like, you know, that's not possible. You're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, thank you. I appreciate that, man. That's some good big dog energy, you know?
Yeah. I think the important thing to remember here is that what we've learned is that Jordan and John have not helped us in any way.
That's exactly what we were trying to get through to you, Mia.
Yet. I'm sure wisdom will be coming from
right.
soon. Right. Have you each had a favorite segment that you've that you've done? I know we talked about, breaking, ones that cracked you up, but has there been one that you really was either important to you or just super funny to you or anything that stood out to you?
One of my most recent field pieces was about the mammoth and how a group of scientists are trying to de-extinct the mammoth. And that just turned out so well. And it was such a fun process to do. And I always really enjoy when a field piece involves I don't mean this against other people. I like when I'm speaking to people that I know are insanely smarter than I am. And I was talking to like Harvard scientists and professors and um yeah, and it was just a perfect mixture of like I learned a lot. They were also very just confident in their field, so they were like down to clown and just make fun of everything, and and the piece turned out really, really well. And I was
That's actually a cool point that I've not fully thought of as well, Troy, is like there are so many times we get to interview and be around people who we would just simply never be around otherwise. Like, professors, people in like literal politicians. That is a very cool part of the show. One of my favorite sketches that we did recently was it basically was like discussing how horrible and depressing the news has been. But if you see a little poster on a wall of a kitten hanging off a rope with the words hang in there, like your whole day can be turned around. And it was so stupid, so silly. And yet, the more I thought about that piece, I was like, wait, that actually is how my brain works, though. Like I can be so depressed and then a top 40s pop song comes on and I'm like, "Oh my God. I'm a really happy girl and I'm very lucky." And like not that I mean to call that poster art, but I do feel like, levity is art in its own way too.
So I worked on a chat with Costa of the tariffs and how they were like on again and off again. And I think about it a lot because it's happening consistently. It's like it's the only thing I've ever worked on at the show that is like still happening all the time. And it comes up in the news all the time, but it's also like off and on all the time. And that's the closest I felt like as like whether it was the writers or it was like Costa and I, that everybody came together to almost predict the future. Like it's still going to be off and on because it's like low key off right now. But by the time people see this, it might be on again.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I think about nearly every day.
What do fans, people that approach you on the street, what do they most often want to talk about when they see you?
My fan interactions have been pretty standard of just like they love the show, they love that I mean, it's nice to know that our goal is being met. A lot of people just say that they love that they can go to us to sort of get a more palatable and light information on what's going on in the world, and that we provide sort of escapism and calling out hypocrisy and just making them laugh at it because if you just watch the news all day, it's very heavy. I do sometimes get a little concerned when people come up and they go, "I love The Daily Show. It's how I get my news." And I go, "Well, that's not what it's for." But if that's all you can handle,
yeah,
hey for now.
Right, exactly. Grace, what about you?
I was in Ireland for a friend's wedding a couple of weeks ago, and his like aunt's husband came up to me, full thick German accent, was like, "I watch The Daily Show every day. I work in construction and I eat my lunch alone, and I watch The Daily Show." And I was so he lives in Germany, and he was just like, "Yeah, like it's hard to get, like, I'm either watching, what I can, like CNN, MSNBC, whatever, or I'm watching like the Germany cover the US, and it's so dark that I think for him it really is just like I need to just, flip this on its head and see it from a different lens, which might be really the same lens. It's just not stabbing you in the gut,
Okay, so I don't know if you could really call this a fan interaction, but I did order food while I was at the office one time, and then I was having trouble finding the guy, so I left the building, And then we finally linked up, and then he was like, "Oh, this is like where they shoot The Daily Show." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And he's like, "I wonder how tall Jordan is." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, he's pretty tall." And he was like, "Oh, you work here?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I do. Have a great day."
He's like, I love all the correspondents and lists everyone, and then he's like,
Yeah.
and the last one, what's his
And the
name?
last one is like, "Oh, he loves smoothies and pliables." So,
That's strange though that his first question was about like the stats on someone's height.
yeah,
Like his
yeah,
go-to of all the questions he could ask.
Although
yeah.
I am
think
Googling celebrities' heights.
Yeah, and we at the end of this, I'm going to go around and ask for all of your height. So just be ready. But
6'3".
Yeah, I feel like if you're watching enough of Jordan's pieces, you do realize he towers over every person he speaks
That is
to.
true.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what it was. He's such a super fan that he's permeated past the regular questions. Now he
Right.
wants to get down to the deep stuff.
For your individual, for yourself, what's the trickiest part for you about being funny about politics right now, and how do you kind of strike that balance?
I think sometimes there is a little bit of a challenge for me to I don't know, I want to be very conscious of not going for the low-hanging fruit, especially when you're talking about something that like politics, which a lot of people, it affects people personally. So it's a sensitive topic. And even though we're trying to make fun of it, you always risk the possibility of, I don't want to say like going too far, but just like, saying something that someone could deem distasteful. And I do think that comedy should be pushing boundaries, but there is gray area, and you were always going to make mistakes. So that's the most difficult thing, where sometimes I am in a very comedic mindset and it's like, great, let's make fun of everything. And then but you have to still be conscious of other people's, I want to be conscious of other people's feelings.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, maybe all of our answers will be pretty similar, but I mean, definitely agree with what Troy said. And the just like the balance of, okay, we're talking about something serious, like how funny do we even want to make it? Or we're talking about something pretty goofy, like even like me and Troy's chat last night that was about RFK Jr. just like being in a weird creek that had feces in it. But, and being like, so we're talking about lighter things, being like, and what are we trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
So I think just like always, yeah, and definitely always trying to think like, at the very least, I don't want to offend anyone. But I do feel like, that's in people naturally, and definitely is something that we as a show always think about anyway. Except for certain people who I think maybe we don't care about hurting, but
For the most part, it's become having a take that sort of cuts through what feels like general noise and just a general assessment of what's happening. Because I think in some forms it's low-hanging fruit, and in other forms it's just repeating what's already been said. I think trying to find whether it's a line of logic or even sometimes just the wording or just whatever analogies you put together that makes people see what's happening in a different light. So that way, when you've been told the same thing over and over again, it does start to lose some of its potency. And so finding a different way to write or tell a joke or like convey a story is something that's really important to me.
I would like to know kind of what, your kind of biggest hope or wish is moving forward.
I mean, in the context of the show,
Yeah.
even though I've been here for around 2 years now, oh gosh, maybe even a little longer, because I've been full time almost I don't know. Redact all of this. I still feel like I'm learning so much, and I still feel like I'm getting my sea legs here. So, but I don't know. I kind of hope that I just continue growing, and but it can also continues to be challenging. I think the beautiful thing about our show is that it's a variety show. There's so many different aspects to it. So yeah, that's a vague question. So I'm giving a vague answer.
That's okay.
your question is, what is our hope?
Yeah, like
Is
what
that
would you like to see happen, or would you, yeah, for the show, and kind of where you
sure?
see yourself? Yeah.
I mean, I definitely, for what I'm trying to do personally with like my time at the show, is like get more involved in more sketch work, just because it's what I like kind of trained for, I guess, when I was living in Chicago, and what I feel like comes naturally to me. And so definitely like just logistically, that's what I'm trying to do more of. Other than that, yeah, I do still feel like I learn so much every day, and like quite honestly, like every single day I'm in the office, I do feel like I do a little bit better, which I think gives so much space for like I don't know, I look back, 6 months and I'm like, oh, I had no idea what I was doing. And
Mm-hmm.
a year and I'm like, oh, how did they even have me? So yeah, I think just like any learning, I still can learn some things about politics because history was kind of one of my lowest grades in school. But yeah.
I think that for the show in the future, I think to lean into more of what we're doing now, I think that right now we are embracing and finding ways to highlight both new media and new voices. There's a new wave of grassroots movements and of people in politics that haven't got enough light or shine. There isn't totally enough awareness in just the landscape of how media is consumed over what's happening and the people that are doing really great work to combat the things that people see and feel that there's like almost this avalanche of change that they don't want coming, and sometimes the people that are doing things to subvert or combat that thing don't get as much light and life as the thing itself, because the thing itself is what is going to keep people like glued to the news, so it's much easier to go on and on and on about tariffs or about like whatever rolling back of any civil liberties or anything, but then sometimes the opposition to that doesn't get the same amount of attention in a balanced way. And so I think that embracing some of these new voices and some of these ways of like subverting the status quo is something that we're doing now. You see it in like Klepper's conversation with Hassan Piker and everything, and how there are more people like that out there that could be given a voice to. And so I think leaning into more of that will not only give people a bit more hope, but will let them know that while the odds aren't like evenly stacked, and that there is a lot of uh, power politically on a side that they might oppose, that the fight and the efforts aren't like completely given up on. And I think you can highlight that through like really funny jokes and stories, and also in how the show is very good at calling out when the thing that is the big scary thing is put into practice, and how spectacularly it can fail can be very, very funny. And I think that spending a lot of time and focus on those things also give people perspective that there isn't just like a unstoppable movement in a direction that they don't want happening.
And my last question kind of picks up on that a little bit, but when you are consuming so much news on a daily basis, how, do you not go into full kind of doomsday mode? And then where do you guys turn to get a laugh when you need it?
Well, I recently deleted TikTok off my phone so that I don't have that anymore as a resource, but hopefully it will
That's
fix.
why you're looking kind of sad and depressed, huh?
Oh, I was going to say that's why my skin cleared up, Grace, but things. I mean, honestly, coming here and the fact that everyone here in this office has the goal of taking the news cycle and bringing levity to it and spinning it, calling out hypocrisy and making it funny, that in itself kind of helps. It's adjusted my take on the news, because it's just adjusted how I interpret it. So I mean, honestly, just like working here has kind of helped me avoid a lot of the dooming feelings.
I feel like I keep agreeing with Troy, but it's because he keeps going right before me.
Maybe we should have mixed up the order. Yeah, you're right.
I know.
No,
Well,
this is how it was supposed to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, I do almost think that I look at the news with a maybe not more positive lens is the word, but like with a slight breath of fresh air because of working here. I don't know. People are so funny. People are so creative. Like, you know, a TV can be on saying the like psychoist, like just really freaky thing, and someone can make a joke and it really will just kind of turn it around for me. Um, I start to find psycho things awesome. But no, I'm kidding. But I mean, unfortunately, I find levity in almost exclusively watching reality TV. So that's kind of my curse. But it's working for me right now.
Do you have a favorite one?
Well, right now I'm watching Survivor, which is I think an excellent season, personally. Some of my friends are like, I don't like this cast, but I'm loving it. So
I think, yeah, I definitely consume a lot, and one of the things that keeps me sort of grounded without having to spiral is knowing that not only are some of the things unprecedented, but most of the things are cyclical, and there are certain things where if you take a headline at face value, or you take someone's editorializing of events at face value, you'll think that everything that's happening is happening for the first time. And I think sometimes it doesn't prepare you when things actually are happening for the first time, when something is actually unprecedented. And so I think doing my best to separate from the media landscape the things that are clearly for clicks and to get you to read to the bottom of the piece, and then the things that are actually like, these are the things you should be aware of because these are the unprecedented, like unconstitutional, never happened before or haven't happened since 1873 type things. And then that helps me in a way that is it just makes everything more realistic, so that way I'm not spiraling out over something that won't even be in the news you know, a week from now. Sometimes I find that media can be, and I think it's a lot of people's frustration with it and exhaustion with it, is like sometimes it's like that friend that's gossipy, and every once in a while they tell you something that's like earth shattering, and then you talk to them the next day and they're like, what? Oh, I told you that? Oh, that's great. Okay, I forgot. And it's like, oh, you almost have to create a hierarchy of how seriously and what seriously you take that's happening in the news. And so that helps give me some peace. And like I said, also researching the efforts that are being made to combat things, because I don't think that something bad happens in the news and then everyone in the entire nation goes, oh, okay, I guess that's happening then. Like there are people who immediately engage in like efforts to counter it, or like create leverage where they can. And then as far as things that I just use to like wind down or give me some sense of like joy and fun, a lot of it is like fail videos. There's nothing like a good video of a guy like racking up a lot of weight for the bench press. And there's sometimes you're racking up weight and you know you can do this because it's kind of close to what you did last time. And then sometimes you can tell this is belief. This is a guy who's like, I saw Captain America do it and I'm feeling pretty good. I had 2 apples today, so looks like we're gonna push 360. And then watching that bar slowly come down and seeing the realization on his face of like, oh, these are all heavy. Everything in here is heavy, is a powerful reminder that we're only here for so long, and it's important to, you know, cherish the time that we have.